There's a lot to go through here. So why don't we start with quarterback play? Because I think that does help answer the question of this show. Why didn't the Buckeyes annihilate Youngstown State? I think Kyle showed us yesterday that he is substantially further along than Devin is. That said, I have seen comments even after yesterday's performance that said, hey, Devin is the guy. The offense moves better with Devin. They look better with him. I think he needs to be given a better chance. I just don't agree with that. And I think Devin would have a hard time telling you that he didn't get a fair shake yesterday because he played with the first team dudes in the fourth quarter. It's not like Ryan Day said, okay, good luck, go figure it out. And by the way, we're going to get you some freshman offensive linemen and our third string tight end and wide receivers 4, 5, and 6 who are all scrapping for playing time too. He was out there with a first team group of guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring a certain perspective to this quarterback battle. I know you've been, kind of banging the Kyle McCord drum for a while because you've seen it. You've been covering. For me, I came in with a fresh perspective. Starting, let's rewind 3 weeks for me, rewind a couple months for me. Like, hey, when I came into this, when we started, doing our podcast, I was like, okay, this is an even quarterback battle. And you could take someone like me who sees it for the first time and watch that game yesterday and be like, these two guys aren't on the same level. They're both good, but the offense does not operate on the same level when they're on the field. You look at Kyle's play, and I think he actually he looked good. I thought he looked really well yesterday. He played really well.
Too.
And I'm like, hey, this is – for anybody with two eyes, like this is Kyle McCord's team. Like you can't watch yesterday's game and be like, okay, the offense ran very similarly when both of these guys in there, even to warrant another week of a competition. Like you couldn't convince me that at all because I thought Kyle actually looked really well and did it in some different situations. I thought on third down he played okay. I thought there were some big throws on third down. There were some big throws backed up. I referenced one yesterday. The coming out when you're backed up inside your own 10, it's called coming out. He hit Marvin across the middle. I thought Marvin made a great catch on it, but it was still a good throw. I think at one point Kyle was like 6 of 8 for 180 yards. Yes, 2 of them were huge plays, but I thought he played really well and took a step in the right direction. And then you flip it over to when Devin played, and it just looked so disjointed. That's kind of like what I felt, and it kind of ties into the question of why didn't we score in the second half, and it's because the offense just is super disjointed, and you get that when you carry a competition into the season and you carry it into a game. Like getting a rhythm in a game with a quarterback is like that's like football. Like that is the sport, and when you are unable to do that because you're switching guys in and out, you get the output that you did in the second half where Devin didn't have a rhythm. The guys it was so out of sync and so like clunky, and it just you could feel that, and it's like, okay, let's decide, make this decision. I think it was evident yesterday that this is Kyle's team, and then keep Devin, getting better just in case you ever need him. But this is Kyle McCord's team going forward.
So I went through and counted, and I know I mentioned yesterday that the Buckeyes only ran 60 plays offensively. If you do you know the breakdown between how many plays Kyle was on the field and how many plays Devin was on the field?
I do not know.
Yeah, I do. What's your guess? How many plays do you think they each ran?
So if it was 60 plays, my guess is somewhere around 35 McCord, 25 Devin Brown.
Devin Brown played 32 plays.
Okay.
Kyle McCord got 28 snaps. So in fewer snaps, the offense looked more efficient and more explosive under Kyle. Now, I don't want to just bury Devin because last week he got a quick 3 and out and then didn't really play until it was garbage time late, and you couldn't really evaluate much from there. So I almost feel like, okay, let's just forget that last week against Indiana and let's start judging Devin now versus maybe where Kyle was last week. I still think that what we saw from Kyle last week in the first half had better bright spots and fewer bad moments than what we saw from Devin yesterday. They are I don't even know if I want to say that they are as different as everybody's making them out to be, because, it sounded like Devin Brown was this super athletic, mobile running quarterback that also has a great arm. And don't get I'm not trying to dog the guy. He's a really good player.
Right.
I just don't think he's clearly the better guy in this, in this quarterback battle right now. And I think Ohio State, part of the reason why they didn't annihilate Youngstown State was because the offense didn't look as good under him yesterday. I thought he played like he was pressing because he probably saw Kyle McCord lead the team on several touchdown drives. The Buckeyes had 5 scores. The 3 passing touchdowns all came from Kyle, and the 2 running touchdowns came when Devin was on the field. And it's not as though Devin never had a chance to throw the football. Maybe the play calling is a little bit different because the coaching staff thinks he's got a different skill set, so they want to use him more as a runner. I mean, I guess I would buy that. He was 7 of 13 through the air, and I don't know the exact I guess you could do the math, right? If he had 32 plays that he was on the field for and he threw 13 times, so that means they ran it, 19?
Yep.
19 runs when Devin was on the field, and they only had 8 running plays when Kyle was on the field. So they were more than twice as likely to run the ball when Devin was on the field. But he still had 13 passing attempts, and he missed Emeka Egbuka on a short, shallow cross that I think would have been a touchdown. He missed Carnell Tate in the end zone, which would have been a touchdown. Now, in one of those drives, ultimately they scored anyways, but one of them they didn't. The Carnell Tate miss ended up being a turnover on downs, and we'll get to that later. So I don't know. I just think we are starting to see enough of a body of work that I think Kyle's the guy. I don't blame Ryan Day for not making a statement in the heat of the moment, the emotions of a post game. And I think maybe Ryan is probably going to see the same thing that we saw there. But I also don't know that I expect Ryan to just come out on Tuesday and say, that's our guy. I think they're going to just start making those adjustments where Kyle's going to get more and more meaningful snaps, and Devin will play late in next week's game if it warrants it.
Because I also would add to that, there's still development that Devin Brown needs to do. He's going to be a good player. I agree with you. That shouldn't get lost in this conversation, because I think with Kyle McCord is he's been in the program, he knows the stuff, and he looks like the more mature guy. On last Saturday against Indiana, you could argue that he didn't look the way he should have. Yesterday, he took care of business, kind of did what he needed to do, and you could sense the maturity in that. Hey, they're an inferior opponent. We need to look good, and we did. With Devin, there's still development that needs to happen. The dude he's a kind of a freaky dude. He's huge. He can throw it real well. He can move. I would add to your your stat breakdown there of the 19 rushes that Ohio State had. 6 of them were Devin Brown carries. So
sure.
Factor that in as well, because when he's in, he's a running threat, and they use him to run the football, which is great. And I think he will be very good. I just think for right now, where this team's at and what they need, a lot of people make this comparison. They just need Kyle McCord to keep the Lamborghini straight. This offense is a sports car. It is legit everywhere on the outside. But you just need someone to keep that thing within the white lines and not banging off the walls. And I think for this year, Kyle McCord gives you the best opportunity to do that, with the ability he can make some throws, man.
He's an athletic kid. I mean, he can move. It's not like he can't get out of the pocket.
Correct. But he can do enough, and he can make some throws down the field too, which is encouraging. So, it's not a knock on Devin Brown that he's not ready yet, but continue to develop him. But I think this is clearly a Kyle McCord team.